The Sacramento Kings have removed the interim tag on Doug Christie, extended him to a multi-year contract extension, making him the head coach of the future for the Sacramento Kings. This is not surprising news. He was always the front runner in the Kings coaching search, if there even was really a coaching search. And so I'm super happy for Doug, from Kings player to Kings commentator to assistant coach to interim coach to now head coach. I would say that's a pretty cool evolution within a franchise. He obviously took over last season in a very tough situation, led the team to a 27-24 record, led the team to an offensive rating that over a full season would have put them near the top of the league, and a defensive rating that would have put them near the bottom of the league. So, that kind of makes sense for the roster that was given. And so I'm super happy for Doug, because he's just one of the people in the Kings organization that everyone loves. I'm also happy because of maybe who it wasn't, like we didn't wait around for Doc Rivers to become available and then sign him or something, because that felt like, I don't know, it could have been a possibility with the Kings. That's not something I want. But I think the question that you have to ask looking at this signing is, who made this signing, right? Was it Scott Perry? Did Scott Perry come in and he said he was going to do a coaching search? Like, really, did we do a coaching search? Probably not. It seemed like it was a done deal before he got hired, right? But then again, Scott Perry was probably hired before we even knew he was hired. And so the question for me is, does Scott Perry agree with this? Because one of the things that Scott Perry said in his introductory press conference is he's all about, connectivity within the organization, from the front office to the coaching staff, obviously to ownership as well. They should all have a good relationship and be working together. And so you want, especially when you bring in a new general manager, right? You want to get a head coach that general manager wants, so that he can start building up the team and start building the identity that he wants. And I think identity is the big word for this offseason for the Kings, something that the Kings really lacked throughout the season. And so it's all about a cohesive identity within the franchise, and that's something that Scott Perry talked about a lot, a defensive team first type of identity. And so that seems like it aligns with exactly who Doug Christie is. I mean, that's who he was as a player, right? So that's great. Doug seems like a player's coach. The reports were that Zach LaVine wanted Doug Christie back as the head coach of the Kings. And so that's half the battle of coaching, right? Is getting players to buy in, maybe more than half the battle. And so the players do seem to love him. I feel like he does have the perfect mentality for this Kings team. But again, that worry is, who actually made this decision? Was it Scott Perry or was it Vivek Ranadive? Did Vivek Ranadive hire Scott Perry under the condition that Doug Christie was always going to become the coach? And that seems like the most likely scenario, because Vivek has just wanted Doug Christie to be the coach for forever now, pretty much. And so that's kind of the part of this that I don't like to see, that it doesn't feel like there was the proper process to pick a head coach, just like it felt like there wasn't the proper process to find a GM. Like, it's nothing against Scott Perry. It's nothing against Doug Christie. It's just like the process to get to those hires did not seem like a good one. And so even if these hires are the right ones, I think it just shows how the Kings organization isn't doing things the proper way. And so even if it's not going to come back and hurt you with these hirings, you may make a mistake in the future where Vivek Ranadive makes a decision and then it does come back to hurt you. That's the worry. And I also just am worried for Doug Christie, because he's inexperienced as a head coach, obviously. And the Kings, by all accounts, are not looking to tear things down. They're still looking to win now. And things, while he led the team to a winning record in his time last season, it's not like things went great. I wouldn't say he exactly proved himself last season. I don't think he proved himself that he is a head coach in this league. I also don't think he proved that he isn't, right? I don't think we got an answer either way by his time last season. He kept the team together in a very tough situation, but that doesn't mean that he has proven that he's a head coach yet. And so hopefully he will prove that in this coming season. And really, I hope that this organization makes the right moves to surround him with the necessary pieces to succeed. That's really what I want. I want Doug Christie to succeed. So hopefully the organization helps him do that by giving him a good roster, right? By making the necessary changes in the offseason to make this team well balanced, align with the identity that we want, give him a roster where he is able to succeed. Don't set him up for failure, where he has 1 year as coach, then he gets fired and he never gets a shot at being a head coach ever again, right? None of us want that. Also, like I said before, he seems like a player's coach. In the locker room, he writes on the whiteboard an acronym before each game that's trying to motivate the players. He's a motivator, and that type of coach can absolutely work, right? Not necessarily being the X's and O's type of coach. And so that just means that you have to surround that coach with the experienced veteran assistant coaches to be able to help him. Because there were absolutely times last season where it felt like the Kings were out-coached. And even last year when Doug Christie came into the interim head coach job, there was some shuffling with his coaching staff, like Luke Laux leaving for Florida State. And so you want to get him the type of veteran coaches in this league that are going to provide him stability and just provide him with the necessary support to succeed. Because being a player's coach can be great. Being a guy that can get players to buy in, be able to keep morale high is great. And, writing those acronyms on the whiteboard gets everyone hyped up. Everyone's, team, everyone buying in together. But if you just keep losing games, if the results don't come, eventually, even if people don't turn against Doug Christie, eventually morale will drop. Eventually, the players get tired of walking into the locker room and, there's another acronym, another motivational speech, but they know that they're just going to go out and get destroyed. I mean, isn't that what happened at the end of last season against the Mavericks when the team just got absolutely destroyed? At some point, if you don't have the right roster and if you are not getting results and you're losing, that's going to wear on a team no matter what. And so I think the question going into next season is when the team hits a road bump, or maybe hits multiple road bumps, or one long continuous road bump, how do they respond? Do they continue to buy in to Doug Christie? Is he able to make the necessary changes and keep the team together? I'm really hoping that Doug Christie succeeds. Love Doug Christie. There are still the worries because we've seen before what happens when a coach isn't aligned with a front office. And eventually, if the results don't come, things can get messy. And so hopefully Scott Perry does think that Doug Christie is the guy, hopefully. And if it wasn't his decision, if this was kind of one of the prerequisites to get the GM job for Scott Perry, that he had to hire Doug Christie as the full-time head coach. If that is the case, then hopefully they can still make it work because, like I said, the identities align. The identity that Scott Perry talked about in his press conference, the identity of Doug Christie as a player, I think they very much do align. And so hopefully success can come from that. So the Kings now have their new GM, have their new head coach. They still need to fill out the front office. They still need to fill out the coaching staff. But you can kind of check those two things off, the two big things early on in this offseason. And so I think it is good that these things have been done early on, even if, the process wasn't great and we would have maybe liked the process to be a little different. It is good that these things are done. So now the team can focus on the rest of the offseason with really rebuilding this team. And like I said, they're not going to do a teardown. They're going to continue to win now, but they still need big changes, I think. So hopefully the Scott Perry and this front office is able to make those necessary personnel changes to be able to give Doug Christie a team that he can work with, a team that he can win with, a team that he can succeed with. So anyways, that is it for this episode of the Roll Report. Let me know what you guys think of Doug Christie being hired as the full-time head coach of the Sacramento Kings. I will be back very soon to talk about the Kings' player needs for this offseason, what moves that they need to make to succeed. So I will see you guys then. Peace.